Hello, friends, and welcome back to this add-on to Sunday's sermon summary. If you've been following along with the Stand Firm series, you already know we're walking through Peter's first letter, written to scattered believers living under growing pressure. Before we begin, I want to give a gentle warning. Some of what we'll talk about today includes historical persecution and violence. It's not graphic, but it is real, and it may be difficult for some to hear. If at any point you need to pause and take a breath, please do. This story carries weight because it reminds us just how costly faith once was, and how deeply courage and compassion mattered in the face of fear. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's walk gently together through this part of history, the fire and the empire. This episode digs a little deeper, to understand what was happening in Peter's world and what it might mean for ours. And don't worry, no surprise Greek words today. I think we've all earned a coffee and a simpler start, but today's topic is heavier. Peter's letter is full of hope, yet it was written in the shadow of one of the darkest moments in early Christian history, a time when faith itself could get you killed. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's step back in time to the fire and the empire. When the flames began, it started on a hot July night in AD 64. In the crowded Circus Maximus district of Rome, a fire broke out. At first, just smoke, then flames leaping from house to house, carried by the wind and fueled by oil lamps and thatched roofs. For 9 days, Rome burned. Temples collapsed, markets vanished, and 2/3 of the city lay in ruins. Whispers spread that Emperor Nero had started the fire so he could rebuild the city to his liking. Some said he stood on a balcony, playing his lyre while Rome burned, a story that may not be true but fits his pride. And when people turned on him, he needed someone else to blame. He needed a scapegoat. Enter the Christians, a small, misunderstood group who refused to worship Roman gods and talked about loving their enemies. To Nero, they were perfect scapegoats. The historian Tacitus wrote, "To get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. And so persecution began, first arrests, then executions, then spectacle. Some were crucified, others torn apart by dogs, and others, unbearably, set on fire to light Nero's gardens. These were the fiery trials Peter warned about." His words weren't poetic, they were prophetic. Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery trials you are going through. 1 Peter 4:12 NLT. Peter knew what was coming and wrote to strengthen believers before the flames reached them. Why did Nero fear them? Nero's persecution wasn't just politics, it was control. Rome was built on hierarchy and fear. Christians preached equality and hope. They said there was one true king, and it wasn't Nero. They cared for the poor and welcomed slaves as brothers and sisters. That kind of love threatened the empire's order. Unable to understand their faith, Nero twisted it. He called them dangerous, enemies of Rome, and people believed him. It's an old tactic, isn't it? When power fears humility, it turns to blame. But truth has a way of surviving, even when it costs something. Life of faith under fire. Imagine living in Rome then. You couldn't speak your faith openly. You met quietly in homes or catacombs, singing hymns under your breath. You shared bread and wine in secret, not knowing if it would be your last meal together. Still, believers kept going, caring for the sick, burying the dead, praying for their enemies. They didn't curse Rome, they blessed it. If you suffer for being a Christian, don't be ashamed. Praise God for the privilege of being called by his name. 1 Peter 4:16 NLT. Peter's final days. Not long after, Peter was arrested. No longer the impulsive fisherman, he was an older man, scarred by failure, strengthened by faith. When sentenced to death, he asked to be crucified upside down, saying he wasn't worthy to die like Jesus. It was around AD 67. The same Nero who lit his gardens with fire would soon light the sky with Peter's courage. His death was meant to silence him, but his voice still echoes. Because faith tested by fire doesn't burn away, it refines. The empire that fell. Nero's empire didn't last. His pride destroyed him. Within a few years, rebellion broke out and Nero took his own life. The empire he ruled by fear collapsed. But the church he tried to destroy survived and grew. It crossed oceans and generations because ordinary people refused to stop loving. From Rome to right now. We may not face Nero's torches, but we face our own fires. Some are public, standing for what's right when others stay silent. Some are private, grief, illness, or rejection. And some are cultural, living with compassion in a world that rewards cruelty. Peter's question still stands. What side of history will we be on? If we would have stood with those early believers, then why not stand for the misunderstood and marginalized today? Standing firm isn't about shouting louder. It's about staying steady when others lose their footing, choosing love when the world chooses blame, remembering that the same spirit that rested on Peter rests on us too. At this point, I invite you into a sore chat. Do we have faith in the fire? Stop and sit. Where do you see fire in your world? Injustice, fear, or misunderstanding? Observe the pattern. History repeats when power fears humility. How can we break that pattern? Affirm the deep truth. The God who sustained Peter in Rome is still sustaining his people today. Reflect and respond. Who needs your courage or compassion this week? Where can you quietly stand firm and bring light? A final word. Peter's world was filled with fear, but he refused to let that define his story. He didn't stand because he was fearless. He stood because he was faithful. Empires fall. Cultures shift, but Peter's words remain. Keep on doing what is right and trust your lives to the God who created you, for he will never fail you. 1 Peter 4:19. Maybe that's the secret to standing firm in any age, to keep doing what's right even when the world burns around us, and to trust that the same God who walked with Peter through the fire will walk with us through ours. Go with God and always stay spicy. I'm Reverend Peggy, your pastor on a park bench. If you found this to be encouraging, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to this channel. There will be more to come in the Standing Firm series.